We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, the Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love.
For over 85 years, the ministries of the Church of the Larger Fellowship have circled the globe and crossed the walls of prisons. We are a spiritual lifeline for our over 2,000 members in prison, who are also connected to individual Unitarian Universalists through our letter writing ministry.
In our online community, we offer weekly worship, classes, and groups. Our monthly magazine, Quest, supports the spiritual lives of thousands around the globe. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance.
We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship.
We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, known affectionately as The VUU.
The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective.
Since 2013, we have gathered every Thursday from September to June to welcome guests from around the world.
Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond.
We hope that today's show inspires you. We hope it builds your faith and gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life.
Welcome to The VUU. With no geographical boundary, working toward creating a global spiritual community rooted in profound love, which cultivates wonder, imagination, and the courage to act. Adapting to the COVID-19 pandemic has been difficult for many bricks and mortar congregations. Early on in the pandemic, we were in a unique position to assist many congregations with the transition. We hosted special episodes of The VUU, provided advice and counseling to religious professionals, and trained congregations for live streaming worship, all while providing robust online programming for our members. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine to our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison, and investing in innovative ministry. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and to fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Welcome to another episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, commonly known as the View or the VUU. It is wonderful to be here. We are super excited to get to our guest today. So we'll just briefly introduce ourselves, those of us who are hosting. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, one of the co-lead ministers of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, joining you from Peekskill, New York, and it's good to be with you today. Aisha Hauser, how are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm Aisha Hauser, and I come to you from Seattle, Washington, land of the Duwamish peoples and the Coast Salish people. Good to see you all. I'm very excited about today's show. DC.
Sorry. I guess I'm Reverend DC Fortune, and I am coming to you from the Susquehanna Valley of Pennsylvania, and I am very excited about today's show. So, Michael, bring us back and get us started, please.
Awesome. We are really excited to welcome back to the View Dr. Paul Ortiz. Paul is a professor of history at the University of Florida and the author, among other things, of an African American and Latinx history of the United States, which we discussed the last time he was on our show. And among his other books are Emancipation Betrayed, The Hidden History of Black Organizing and White Violence in Florida, from Reconstruction to the Bloody Election of 1920. And so this is to say that Paul is, in addition to being a super interesting and really great person, an expert in African American history and a professor in the great state of Florida, which has had some issues of late. And so we are really glad that he found the time to squeeze us in between an emergency union meeting and his labor history class, for which he will have to leave us before the show is over. So, Paul, welcome back to The View. It is so good to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, and it's I'm very humbled, and it's just an honor to be back on The View. And let me preface this by saying we have an incredible Unitarian Universalist fellowship in Gainesville, Florida, and my wife Sheila and I spent a lot of time there. We're also members of Veterans for Peace, and there's a lot of UU members who are very active in our Veterans for Peace chapter. We hold meetings, special community nonviolence, trainings and workshops at the UU Fellowship in Gainesville. So I just always love the opportunity to talk with such amazing friends and colleagues. So again, thank you for having me back on.
Well, it's great to have you, and I don't know what other way to ask this, but what the heck is going on?
Yeah, right.
What is it with Florida?
In your beautiful state?
Well, Florida's a mess. As many of us know, those of us who live here, if you're a K through 12 teacher, Michael, you're living in a state of fear, especially if you teach anything intersecting with African American, queer studies, Holocaust studies. A whole range of topics have been really pared down and devastated by the state's attack on intellectual freedom. So the state has banned critical race theory from our K through 12 public schools. It has banned the 1619 history curriculum. It has banned any discussion of U.S. history that doesn't acknowledge that the U.S. was created equal for all of us from day one. Anything that challenges that idea, anything that points out that women had to fight for the right to vote, that LGBT people had to fight for the right to just be here, that African Americans had to fight for their freedom. Anything like that is forbidden. So you can talk about Black people, you can talk about women, you can more or less talk about different groups, but you can't challenge the idea that the U.S. Is this perfectly kind of equal place as long as Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump are in charge of it.
So I have a question, because I am trying to be judicious with my outrage. So I haven't looked into how, and this is going to sound like a naive question, so just forgive me, how the governor of a state can simply ban entire curricula, because is that not a violation of the First Amendment, that the government shall not restrict free speech? Or what am I missing?
You're not missing anything. And so the governor and the state of Florida have been very, I like the term judicious. They have been, believe it or not, kind of cautious. And so they have promulgated these laws via what I would call executive orders. So the law that I just mentioned was the so-called, the first anti-woke law passed July 4th, 2021. Yes, the date is not an accident, right? But it was directed specifically at K through 12 public schools. It was not directed at the colleges and the universities. The colleges and the universities were stage 2. So you may have heard that it's the Department of Education in Florida that's passing these laws. What's interesting, there's no debate at all whatsoever about whether these laws should pass or not. They're not being debated in the state legislature. They're not being debated between parents and teachers and people in communities. The governor is just passing these laws a la fascism. Basically, you agree with me or hit the highway kind of thing. So higher education is in a different category. So what happened was the second round of these anti-woke laws were passed a year later, and we were able to get a federal injunction against the implementation of the anti-woke laws against our universities. So there's actually an injunction right now against the anti-woke law, how it operates or could operate at the University of Florida, for example. But that injunction, as you know, injunctions are temporary. They're not permanent types of laws. And so the state is constantly picking at us. And so last spring, for example, they ordered that the universities and colleges disseminate political surveys to the students and faculty and staff saying, are you liberal? Are you conservative? And especially if you're a conservative, do you feel targeted by these out of control, anti-fascist elements, anti-racist elements? Most of our students, Aisha, refused to fill out the surveys. They found them insulting. A lot of my students, because I'm a veteran, have a lot of ROTC students, a lot of veteran students. They're very diverse politically. And my conservative students told me, they said, Professor Ortiz, if we didn't want to learn about slavery, if we didn't want to learn about oppression and freedom struggles, we wouldn't take your classes. They were very resentful. They said, we're tired of our parents constantly trying to follow us into college and telling us what we can learn and what we can't, right? And so the latest attack on intellectual freedom that's on the horizon, and Governor DeSantis announced it at the New Year, was he's going directly after the last statewide resistance, the last organized statewide resistance against his authoritarian rule. That's us. That's the unions. He's going after the K through 12 unions. He's going after the faculty unions. He's vowed to crush us because we're the last kind of people standing. I'm not saying that no one else is resisting, because that's not true. But in terms of we're in every county, Aisha, of the state of Florida, every county. And so he wants to take us out so that he can have a free reign. And this is all about the 2024 GOP presidential election, right?
I'm hoping, this is me being a foolish, hopeful optimist that this is backfiring. To your point, I'm like, has he not met teenagers who are going to be like, fuck you, we're going to learn. Now we want to learn about AP African American history. Like, he now made it more popular, like a TikTok.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's both the hopeful and the scary thing about what you just said. So the hopeful thing is, yeah, wherever I go in Florida, I do a lot of work. You mentioned at the top of the hour, African American Latinx history in the United States. So right now, Beacon Press, which of course is connected to UU, is working on a young adult version of an African American and Latinx history in the United States because the demand is so high. Not just for my book, but for Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz's Indigenous Peoples History of the U.S. Ibram Kendi's, How to Be an Anti-Racist, a young adult version of that. What that demonstrates to us is that, yeah, younger people are demanding this new kind of historical content. They want to see their families, if they're immigrants from Haiti, from Cuba, from Mexico, they want to see their peoples. If they're LGBT students, they want to know, hey, we've always been here. We didn't just arrive here like in 2010 or something, right? And so if they're disabled, they want to understand the history of how understanding disability changes the way we think about U.S. history. So, and there's a young adult version of that book that is rolled out. And so, this is the hopeful part. It's that younger people, like, I'm so excited to be a teacher these days because when I was a kid, I don't remember that curiosity. I think I grew up in a shipyard town. We just did what we were told. I'm sure our parents didn't think that, but I just don't remember there being this broad questioning that's happening among younger people, especially. The exciting thing, it isn't just younger people. It's if you think about a group like the Dream Defenders in Florida. So you mentioned the AP African American Studies course. That was one of the main targets of Florida, was to make sure to remove Black Lives Matter from that curriculum completely. Keep in mind, Black Lives Matter is one of the largest social movements, not just in American history, but world history. It is a global movement. So taking it out of a history curriculum is really an abomination. It really takes us past Orwell's 1984. But the negative side of your formulation, the fearful side, is that the power behind these bans, the power behind DeSantis, it isn't just Florida. Look, if it was just Florida, I'd be fine. I would say, look, y'all are going to do a lot better than we are. We're just kind of stuck in Florida, right? That ain't the case. Most of the funding for this, most of the power for this is coming from Southern California, upstate New York, Illinois, Chicago. So the push for these bans, the push to try to limit freedom, the push to promote transphobia, all of these things, they're in Florida. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of hatred here, a lot of racism and bigotry. But I would hazard a guess, no more than any other state. It's just that our state legislature is a willing laboratory and a willing puppet for this kind of hateful, type of activity to occur. And so these out-of-state funders are just pouring resources into Florida.
Yeah. And Florida is the third most populous state in the country, and so when Florida says we ban this curriculum if it doesn't take out these things, the College Board says, okay, we'll take out those things, which, like, we don't even need to get into.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous. But it's like when Texas says we'll only buy this textbook, then the publishers of textbooks say, okay, that's the only textbook we'll publish. And so Florida has power over the way that this is taught in other states as well.
Well, Michael, I'd like to pick up on your point because, we had an event last night. Kimberly Crenshaw, her organization, the African American Policy Forum, sponsored a panel. I was on the panel with Professor Crenshaw, Professor Roderick Ferguson. Roderick is a person he's one of the many people whose works were banned immediately out of that AP African American Studies program, along with one of my mentors, Dr. Robin D.G. Kelly from East Lay. Another one of my mentors, Dr. Angela Davis, Bell Hooks. Those scholars, their work was purged, just like Black Lives Matter was purged. And one of the things, Michael, that we came up with was that in this case, in AP African American history and the banning of it, and now the tragic watering down of the curriculum. And as I mentioned, the memory holing of the curriculum, where you can somehow eliminate one of the largest mass movements in world history from this curriculum and pretend it didn't happen. But Michael, my belief, based upon everything I've looked at, is that the AP, those people there were already ready to pull that material out. They just needed a fall guy. And so they used Ron DeSantis and he used them. So from the outside, it looks like Ron DeSantis is a big winner for his base. He can say, hey, look at me. I took all those Black women out. I took Kimberly Crenshaw. I took Bell Hooks. I took Angela Davis. They're gone. And by the way, the most commonly banned author in the state of Florida right now, Toni Morrison. School districts and libraries are literally, her books are flying off of shelves and being put in storage rooms. At the same time, that younger people are reading Toni Morrison more than ever. So there's hope and there's fear at the same time. But Michael, back to your point, I'm not trying to say that Ron DeSantis is blameless in this. I'm just saying that Florida is becoming, in some ways, my fear is that people will say, oh, that's just Florida, when there's a lot of, my main takeaway last night in this national panel with Kimberly Crenshaw and Roderick Ferguson and others was, stop just talking about Florida, because it's happening in your backyard too. And a lot of people, there was like 1,800 people registered for that program, and there's a lot of head nodding, because there are people from Iowa, there are people from Texas, there are people from other northern states that are beginning to feel the pressure. Oh, wouldn't it be better if we just took Toni Morrison's Beloved out of the curriculum? It's a very mature book. There's some sexual scenes in it. It's very brutal to read. It's kind of a downer. Let the kids read that when they get to college. And so there's a lot of, it isn't just like the right-wing book banners who like throw books into bonfires and stuff. In some cases, I hate to say this, but it's our allies who get seduced into this idea that, maybe it would be better for people to wait and read Richard Wright later. Maybe Native Son is too mature for a high school senior or junior. I read Native Son when I was in high school. It changed my life. It may have saved my life. And to think that, but when I was in high school, this is how old this stuff goes. When I was in high school, that book was banned. It was clear we weren't supposed to read the book. My teacher got into trouble for assigning us the book. And just as his mentors had gotten in trouble for assigning Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, teachers were fired from American schools in the 70s for assigning that book, Slaughterhouse-Five. So this is a long struggle that way.
I didn't mean to imply that it was just happening in Florida, but that if you were part of this creeping fascist regime and you were in New York, that you're not going to get New York to do your dirty work for you. So you find the legislature and the governor who are willing to do that, who have outsized power, and then all of a sudden AP African American history in New York is different.
Yeah.
I read Richard Wright.
Yeah.
I read Native Son in 9th grade, and The Bluest Eye in 10th grade, thanks to my wonderful high school. So I know the power that those works can have in teaching people. DC, you had a question, I think, about labor organizing.
Yeah, I had a question. I had a question about the targeting of the unions and the teachers and the professors in Florida by the governor, and I'm wondering, are you getting any support at all from like the National Education Association? And is there a similar but specific group for higher ed faculty that are able to put any pressure or offer any support for the unions in Florida?
Yes, DC. So our union, I'm the president of the United Faculty of Florida, the University of Florida chapter. We have about 900 members on our campus. Every university in Florida is unionized among the faculty, and half of them are unionized among the graduate students because of stuff like this, right? Because of the generations of attacks. You know, we had the Johns Commission in the 50s and 60s, and there's probably people in your audience who know about that, where, you know, when the Johns Commission was like Florida's McCarthyism on steroids. And so back in those days, if a student suspected you of being lesbian or gay, they could call the chief of the campus police, and the chief of the campus police could order you to come in and undergo a very humiliating interrogation. And what the chief of the campus police would say is, you know, either, you know, Professor so-and-so, either you come in and subject yourself to my questioning, or I'll make sure that we'll have a front page article about you in the local daily paper, just saying that you're a lesbian or gay or homosexual, was what the language used back then.
Right.
So that's why we are union now. Our union was organized in the late 60s and early 70s because of struggles over freedom. I mean, you know, human rights, dignity, intellectual freedom. So yeah, NEA has our backs, and our chapter. So we have statewide, and just bear with me for a moment, we have the Florida Education Association with approximately about 150,000 members. Now we're the United Faculty of Florida. We represent teachers, counselors, librarians in colleges and universities. We have, I think, about 25,000 members statewide. Don't quote me on that, but we're growing pretty rapidly. Our collective bargaining and we're combined local. So we're combined NEA, a National Education Association, and American Federation of Teachers. In fact, Randy Weingarten was also on the panel last night. And as you know, Randy is the president of AFT. And we've had the president of NEA has actually done local events at my chapter here in Gainesville. So we've been really blessed with strong support. The collective bargaining agreement that we have, Article 10, we consider it the gem of our CBA. And it was created by refugees, children of Holocaust survivors of Latin American dictatorships in the 70s. It is very strong. It essentially says that if you are a member of our university community in the bargaining unit, you cannot be fired for enunciating your scholarly political beliefs. You just cannot be fired for that. And it also requires the university to proactively defend academic freedom, because we all know that academic freedom is very tenuous in the United States of America. That's what I mean. It's Article 10 of our CBA. We have like 30 plus articles, right? But that one article, you know, I think of one of our founders, Hernán Vera, whose family fled from Chile in 1973. He's Chilean, and quite luckily, he was finishing his PhD in the U.S. when Pinochet took over. He lost a lot of family, a lot of friends, but he was one of the founders of our union. And so that's one of the reasons why that collective bargaining agreement is so powerful in terms of intellectual freedom. Now, that's the positive side. The negative side is that unions are only so strong in the United States. You know, we're circumscribed in so many ways because we have such an anti-labor, anti-working class society to begin with. One of the problems we have in Florida is we cannot go on strike. So the positive side is that collective bargaining among public employees is constitutionally protected in Florida, but the quid pro quo in the late 60s was, okay, you can have collective bargaining, but you can't go on strike. So that takes—
Is that all public sector unions in Florida?
Yes, it is. And that, Michael, and that was kind of a quote unquote compromise that came about after the 1968 teachers strike in Florida. And one of my former students, Jody Knoll, is going to be publishing a wonderful book on that teachers strike. That's really the beginning of modern trade unionism among teachers in the Deep South. But yeah, we're getting great support. But the problem is the right wing has a supermajority in the state legislature. And we have, I hate to say this publicly, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Our state Democratic Party leaves much to be desired. And we got trounced in the November elections. I mean, we just got destroyed. And so it gives the momentum to DeSantis and his people. So we're playing defense. The unions are on defense. And we can't, apparently, I guess the National Democratic Party felt before the elections that Florida was kind of a lost cause. And so they kind of let us go. They didn't give us the support they gave to other states. We ran, yeah. And so that's kind of the situation we're in now. We're kind of gearing up for when the state legislature comes in session in March, and of course they're going after Disney, they're going after woke capitalism, they're going after all these things. And we're yeah.
Can I just say that it seems counterintuitive to piss off the mouse?
Right.
That's what
Mickey Mouse like runs that's how. What sort of segment of the economy is that in Florida? Right? Don't piss off the mouse. It just doesn't make any sense.
And at the same time, they can't just up and move Disney World. So they're
Disney's gonna win that battle. There's no doubt in my mind that Disney's winning that shit. He thinks he's fascist. The fucking Disney Corporation is more fascist. Thank you very much. Ask the fucking characters please. They do fascism the best. Disney will win. So weirdly, and I'm not a huge fan of that whole. Have I been to Disney World? Yes, and Disney's gonna win that fight. I forgot about Disney. I'm like, oh, Florida's not a lost cause just yet because once he goes after Disney, I can't wait. Grab the popcorn because I don't know. Maybe that's foolish optimism, Paul. You could tell me, but it feels like a fight against Disney. DeSantis is gonna fucking lose. Yeah.
Well, you're right. I think you're right. And I think let me say a word about woke capitalism for a moment. It's very interesting to me as a lifetime labor organizer. And because we often go to war against big corporations, right? But here's the thing. I give a lot of lectures, to school districts, universities, labor unions, but I also give a fair amount to corporations. Big corporations. I've given Hispanic Heritage Month and Black History Month lectures to Deutsche Bank International, Bank of America, Guggenheim Partners, Wayfair, etc. The list goes on and on and on. And the thing I realized is that this is the thing that Donald Trump and DeSantis and his people are the most infuriated about. They're infuriated at these corporations that have these diversity, equity, and inclusion programs because it blocks them from getting their unqualified people into these positions. Because DEI and affirmative action assure that you're going to have a transparent hiring policy. And I say this as a person of color growing up in the military. So corporation but because the corporations to speak because their employees expect this. They have increasing numbers of LGBT, of non-binary employees, of people who want, and they're demanding these things at the grassroots. Now, I'm not saying corporations are going to change the world. I'm just saying that corporations are changing right now, even as we speak. And I think this is part of a rift between the ruling class in some ways. There's some parts of the ruling class that are like, okay, It's kind of like FDR in the 30s, where FDR had a wonderful fireside chat early on in the Great Depression, and I play that for my students. And my colloquial title for that is "Dear Fellow Capitalists," and because what FDR is saying is saying, look, I love capitalism, you love capitalism, but here's the thing: there's millions of people rioting in the streets right now. There's tens of thousands of workers on strike in the streets right now. There's small farmers taking up arms to prevent their neighbors from being evicted from their homesteads. So you either go along with this New Deal thing, or you're going to have a revolution. Yeah. What would you rather have? Collective bargaining, where you have people like Paul Ortiz as president of a union, or a revolution? And so the problem we have right now is we just don't have people like that in power, who are saying these types of things. Anyway, now I'm starting my history prop ramble. I apologize.
No, love it. Because right now we have people who the cruelty is the point, and that's the most sinister, insidious, bizarre, like death grip on white supremacy culture and misogyny and transphobia, all of it. Because even that shitty Henry Ford, I should really stop cussing. Apologies, Paul. Henry Ford knew you have to pay the workers enough to buy the cars. It's not that he was an awful person, and he even knew. We don't even have that consciousness among the right-wing fascists. There's not even, just to your point, there's not even that.
Yeah, you're right. There's just a lot of, it's amazing here. We're having, because on the one hand, there's all these dichotomies. So my students are organizing this incredible event. We're organizing caravan, like a car caravan from Gainesville to West Palm during spring break to support the coalition of Immokalee workers and their fair food campaign. They're trying to get public supermarkets to sign on to the fair food campaign to help the workers make more money in the harvest. And there's all these hopeful things happening. I mentioned we have a vibrant Unitarian Universalist fellowship here, all throughout the state of Florida. And it's almost like the people in charge know this grassroots energy is happening, but they're using state power to try to crush us and trying to stop us from becoming a more equal society, from raising up the issue of systemic racism and systemic sexism, and as you mentioned, transphobia. And it's just amazing to me. I do a lot of events with faith communities in the South. I don't know of any synagogue, mosque, or church that does not have a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement or policy. Sometimes they have committee members in the synagogue or mosque or church that are dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But it's important for your listeners to understand that Governor DeSantis wants to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion from public education altogether. And I think that's the first step for him. And I think ultimately he and his allies in the Trump movement, and I as a movement historian, I'm thinking 70 to 75 million strong. That's about how much voted for Trump right in 2020. So that's a lot of people. It's not just a few people that on some kind of extremist tendency. It's a lot of people. And I think if they're successful here in banning diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think if they're successful in banning AP African American Studies, I think if they're successful in banning critical race theory and the 1619 history curriculum, to them, that's a beachhead. That's just the beginning. That's why our battle here, I think, is so critical nationwide.
So I have a question. And this is like, I'm going to be the exact opposite of Aisha today. In that I am all about gloom and doom and the end of the world, and I'm thinking about how the American Unitarian Association sort of made its public mark by smuggling intellectuals out of Europe in the 1930s and 40s, and it feels like the United States is involved in that same pattern of rising fascism that happened in Europe at that time. So I'm going to ask you: is there a belief or an understanding that we will get there? That there will be a time when we need to rescue intellectuals and artists, because those are the most dangerous people, are the smart ones and the creative ones.
Yeah.
Are we going to get there? It's like soon. I have a feeling we're going to get there. I guess maybe I'm asking how soon.
Well, it's a great question. I think we're there in one sense. I mean, I would fully endorse your analysis about the Holocaust and, you know, the role of people who bore witness, who took in the oppressed, who did what we're supposed to do, right? And I would just take it back one step further. So I also direct the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida. And we've just embarked on a long-term collaboration with the National Park Service to interview descendants of the Underground Railroad, both freedom seekers, station masters, and conductors. And guess who steps up time and time again to serve, to risk their lives on the Underground Railroad? Unitarians and Black women, and and dissident Methodists, and dissident trade unionists, and people come together. Quakers, exactly. And so, but see, Quakers didn't begin anti-slavery. They were some of the largest slave owners in the early United States. And then they began to challenge themselves internally, look at themselves in the mirror. And so, one of the things I think
I was going to say Unitarians, at least in New England, were some of the richest merchants who made lots of money in human trafficking.
Yeah.
So Unitarians are not exempt from that judgment. Just saying.
No, definitely not. And but one of the things we're learning in interviewing descendants is that the dissidents of each of those tendencies that we mentioned, like Quakers, Unitarians, the people, even the founding of Beacon Press as really an anti-slavery press at a time when to be an anti-slavery press, risked your press being burned to the ground. And I think we're in that same moment now where I was on a conference call with a Black Lives Matter organizer in Miami yesterday. And I guess that gets to, Elisha P. Lovejoy, that gets us to one of the things, people can do. And so the Black Lives Matter movement is going to be asking educators throughout the country to consider sponsoring students in Florida who want to learn things like critical race theory or the 1619 history curriculum, but can't do so because it's banned in the public schools. And we want to try to find ways that these young people can learn these things and maybe get sponsors in states that are still free or freer, to an extent. So that's one kind of.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
Can we be teaching these things in our churches too? I mean, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my biggest gigs. Y'all is you fellowships throughout the country will say, hey, Professor Ortiz, reading a common read, Emancipation Betrayed or African American Latinx History, can you come in and talk? And so this is not going to require any kind of retooling. It's simply going to say, let's expand the community of support and solidarity, and maybe sponsor a Florida classroom from Miami or West Palm or something. And so our Black Lives Matter movement organizers are going to, they're working on a plan right now. I can keep you, put you in contact with them a little further down the road. But yeah, we tell people, I mean, as a union leader, I say on the one hand, we're holding strong here. We're supporting each other. We're using our collective bargaining agreement in higher ed. Our university and college leaders are really not stepping up to support intellectual freedom. That's not a big surprise. And of course, our K through 12 teachers are in a completely, they're in a disastrous position where, as one of my, because I have a lot of former students who are teachers in Florida or were teachers. And one of the things they tell me is, like, Professor Ortiz, you can't even mention the date, the year 1619 in class, because if you do, there's a fear that someone will inform on you and say, oh, she's teaching the 1619 history curriculum. Or you're afraid to talk about the Holocaust, because something you say about the Holocaust may make, if it makes one student feel bad, and then that student tells their parent, that teacher is gone. Principals don't back up their teachers now in Florida.
No.
There's so much fear. So one of the things that we can do politically is to, flood these people in the state legislature, Ron DeSantis, and let him know that we don't support these fascist policies, and so there's a lot of things we can do. And I think teaching, being what's the term, preemptive, and saying, hey, we're going to teach about bell hooks. We're going to have people read bell hooks. We're going to have people read these things that Florida is banning, and another cool thing is that we have independent bookstores in Florida that most of them are quite small, but they're doing heroic work. And so what they're doing in local counties, I just read about one in Duval County in Jacksonville. That small bookstore is ordering extra copies of all the books that are being banned in Duval County School District. And they're making those books available to younger people. I think they may have a loan program. The African American Policy Forum that Kimberly Crenshaw chairs, they're doing a mobile book bus where they're going to different school districts and they're actually giving books away, how to be an anti-racist. In Texas, where my book, African American Latinx History, has been heavily banned, there's a Chicano civil rights group that's going around in a bookmobile and giving free copies of that book and other books away to younger people, to kids, so that they can read them. So even there's a lot of things I feel we can do.
I don't want to rush you out the door, but I'm also aware you have a class to teach in 5 minutes.
I have a class to teach, and Michael, if I can make one more quick announcement.
Please make as many as you'd like.
I put this in the chat bar. We have a wonderful, one of the senior leaders of our local Unitarian Universalist community, Zohara Simmons. A new book has just come out about her lifelong life in the Black freedom struggle. It's called State on Freedom. We're doing a live book event with her on Zoom Thursday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. Would love to have people join us.
Awesome.
Dan Berger is the author of that book, State on Freedom. And Zohara, her life, went from, being a leader of the Freedom School movement in Mississippi in 1963 and 64, working many years with the American Friends Service Committee. When she taught here at UF, she retired a few years ago. She taught, women and Islam. That was one of her regular courses. So just a beloved a leader and community figure here in Florida. So love to have people join. And again, you can join in remotely on that. But
super, and we'll get that link in the show notes.
Okay,
for people.
Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you for
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And please come back. Please come back when you're before your next books are published, when your next books are published, and anytime you'd like. It's wonderful to see you, Paul.
It's wonderful, colleagues, to have me back. Thank you for the work you do every week. It's just so vital to where we are now. So please keep it on. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you, Paul.
I mean,
I'm not sure if I need a nap or a cry.
My question is, do these old white Republicans know about the internet? Like, do they think do they not, like, I don't know. I mean,
they know they use it for their own purposes.
But I mean, yes. I guess it just feel, I don't know, maybe I'm holding on foolishly to whatever fucking optimism I can have that, like the red wave never happened because Gen Z was vastly underestimated.
I like optimistic, Aisha.
I still curse, apparently.
I like optimistic
Here's a
Asia.
world-renowned
Hey.
scholar, and I'm still going, fuck shit, fuck. What is wrong? Why am I like this? Like, why can't I just hold it together?
I think he said fuck too, so it's okay.
I've known Paul for almost 30 years, and I think he can handle it.
And listen, when we're talking about fascism, how are we not saying fucking shit?
Right? Right?
What a
I remember I
conversation,
saw a doctor a couple of years ago, and she's like, "Oh, you're depressed. We need to give you more medicine." I'm like, I don't know if I'm depressed. I think this is an entirely reasonable response to the world right now. Right?
If there's medicine that can make me not interact with it, like bring it on.
Yeah. Okay, so the medicine will get me out from under my bed. I suppose that's good, but still, it's a reasonable response to this fucked up world.
And I'm so glad that Paul also let us know, Dr. Ortiz, Professor Ortiz. I mean, I've known him for 30 years. So Paul also let us know that there are things that we can do to support the efforts to get that information out, to support the efforts to get books that are being banned distributed free to high school students, to support teaching high school students African American history, even if it has to be done remotely from other states. I mean, it's unbelievable that, well, maybe it's all too believable. It should be unbelievable that we would have to do that, but there are things, right, that our faith can call us to do. Right. And, if we have to be on standby to like rescue college professors in Florida and get them to Canada or something like that, we can do that. But for now, we need to get the things that they're writing to the people who want the information. So, yeah. And I'm proud of Beacon Press for wanting to publish this.
Big time.
Beacon Press has not always done the right thing.
No shit.
But they're doing well. They're doing well by this now.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, well, and on my best moments, I can say none of us are the single worst thing we've ever done. And none of us are the single best thing we've ever done. Everybody in every organization is capable of moments of grace and moments of shitty behavior.
Everybody in every organization is capable of learning and doing better.
True. Exactly.
They might not.
Aisha, you look like
they might not use that capability. They might not use that capability.
Well,
that's true.
We didn't pull on this thread, but it has been fascinating to watch kind of capitalism and white supremacy go at it, because
I know when you're rooting for a major corporation,
it sucks. But here's the thing: they're betting on diversity. The corporations are like, the money is not in fucking white people who are Christian who hate everybody. Like, that's not where it just isn't. So it's a weird, it's so schizophrenic in a way for me. Maybe I shouldn't. It's so like, I don't want to root for Disney, but I want to root for Disney because Disney is going to impact what happens to Florida. DeSantis can live in whatever fucking fascist dreamland he's in, but you fuck with the mouse. And true, Michael, to your point, you can't move Disney, which is why they're going to fight fucking harder. They're making, I don't even know the amount of money that they're making from people all over the Disney Paris, Disney, whatever.
They've repealed their special tax. Disney had a special, Lake Buena Vista was a special tax zone. It was their own city, and Florida has repealed their special tax code. I mean, they're going hard after Disney, and they're going to
get bit. I'm betting on. I'm betting on.
It's interesting. The U.S. military and corporations have been investing lately in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and preparing for climate change.
Yep.
The U.S. military, armed forces, have preparations and plans in place and they're doing the things that the fascist part of our political system keeps ranting about is not there. Like they're seeing if like they're seeing what's coming, and they're anticipating the market, and they're preparing for it. When the demographic in the United States looked like you could watch the trajectory and say, okay, it's going to be a white minority country, the corporations said that's our market. We have to appeal to that market. And so it's not because of any inherent virtue. It's because that's where the profit's going to be for them. And preparing for climate change is about, minimizing expenses in a world where, liquid dinosaurs is the price of that stuff is going to go through the roof, right? So, like, I drove across the country a couple times, and when going through Texas, I saw so many windmills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they have land and wind. I mean, they
yes,
know.
Exactly, and not much else. If you've ever driven across Texas, good God, I've never seen so much nothing in my life. But it's not because there are all sorts of progressive green energy tree hugging. Well, there aren't any trees out there to hug at that place. But it's
shrub hugging.
Right? Yes. But it's that's where the money is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah. And
so
don't bet against mouse.
We have 5 minutes left in this really fascinating show. Do we have anything worth saying in a UU roundup to follow that wonderful conversation? I just want to make some space for it if something needs to be said.
My congregation got featured in the 30 Days of Love blog thingy.
Oh yes, and the geodesic.
The geodesic. What's it? Yeah, the geodesic sphere.
Well, I will have to read about it because I do not know about it. I'm not keeping up. I'm sorry, Ashley Haran, Reverend Ashley. Today is her birthday. Apologies that I've not been keeping up with 30 Days of Love. I will start now on day 9.
And it is official that there are no petition candidates running for UUA president.
Right.
That was made official in the last week. We thought it was the case last time we talked, but it's official. So there will be a referendum election on Sophia Betancourt's presidency.
Mm-hmm.
People will get to vote yes or no, and the people who exist to sow chaos in our denomination are already like, well, what if no wins? Like, no's not going to win because Sophia is fantastic. Sophia went to the same high school that I did, so also Red Native Son in 9th grade and the Bluest Eye in 10th grade, by the way. So there we go.
BTW. And Sophia is campaigning so people can learn about what her ministry, her activism, her passion.
Mm-hmm.
She's deeply inspiring. She's a theologian, the whole 9 yards. And I'm not saying that just because I'm on her campaign team, but yes, I am Team Sophia, and thankfully because she is an extraordinary leader, is campaigning.
Yeah.
So
and,
folks can go to forums, can learn on her website. There's a lot of
Tanner reminds us that Kiana Dene Perkins, sometime host of The View, is also featured prominently in the 30 Days of Love meditation. She's done some really wonderful work. So look up 30 Days of Love and be inspired by it, and use that inspiration to fight fascism and work for liberation in our world.
Please and thank you.
Right?
We please fight fascism.
Yes. Please.
2023.
Right?
I can't even. Banning books.
I knew Paul would be great. I mean, Paul will always be a great guest, and we wanted to have him on because of the stuff that's happening, specifically targeting historians in Florida. And as I was about to ask him to come on, he posted something like, "So, like, can we just call this fascism?"
Yeah.
He's like, at one point, like, I'm a historian, I'm pretty sure. Right? So
Mehdi Hassine called it fascism, I want to say a year and a half ago.
Oh yeah.
oh, well, it was fascism and
And he said, I want to talk
Scene.
to America about the F word, and that's fascism. And that's what you've got here. He was the first, major market news host to say that out loud.
Who said it? I missed the name.
Mehdi Haddin.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now
it's
I'm mangling the name.
2016, I think, is when. I mean, look, one could make a very good case. This has been fascism light since 1619. However, we could pretend it wasn't, but we now know 2016.
So since Ronald Reagan. Reagan. Actually, since Nixon, since
the Southern
I'm
strategy.
telling you can go all the way back. Where you go back and
Woodrow
you
Wilson.
make a
Just
very good
keep going.
case.
Let's get some Democrats in there
Right.
too, right?
But what I'm saying is in 1972 is when the United States culturally, socially was really as far to the left, and then it started to buckle.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
when Ronald Reagan came in, it started swinging to the right. And
Well, this
reaping
conversation
the hangover of that now.
could and should be an entire show unto itself, but it is 12:59 p.m. Eastern time, and we have reached the top of our hour, and this has been a really fascinating conversation on the VUU. We're glad
started
you've
on
been
the
here.
top of the hour. We're ending on the top of the hour.
We're gonna end on time because it's just the
And
three of us.
Go
Wow.
Disney. Love y'all. Ciao.
Love you.
All right. Love you, everybody. Be well.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to everyone who gives generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible.
Visit clfuu.org/give to make a contribution.
We hope you will join us next week for another episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism.